Welcome to the Timescales Interviews. I'm Grego, your host. Today we have a very special guest, the editor and a writer for Long Scarf Publications, the extraordinary Christopher Samuel Stone. Mr. Stone, how are you today?
I'm fine, but you've just embarrassed me so much. I'm glad the lighting's bad because I feel so red. Oh, thanks for that. Cheers.
My
That's
pleasure.
a good way to start.
Am I correct that you are in the United Kingdom? I'm in California, so the interview today.
I'm in the original Portland.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yes.
So yeah, we have another Portland. It's about a 12-hour drive from here, up there in Oregon. So what's it like there today in Portland?
It's the sun's still out. It's setting, but it's very nice. Yeah, it's been quite a good day.
Yeah, about the same here. It's just almost noon, and it's really sunny and windy here today, just outside San Francisco. So, Chris, thank you very much for allowing me to catch up to you and toss a couple of questions out. And I'm going to get one out here right off the bat. When did you start watching Doctor Who, and who is your doctor?
When did I start watching? When I was very little. I think the first story I can actually remember is I can remember Terror of the Zygons. Now, I must have been about 5. And I remembered the chap getting washed up from the oil rig. That was, and the monster destroying the oil rigs, which of course was very scary when you were little. Now it's almost hilarious. But no, my favourite doctor and the doctor I like best are two different things. So I think Tom Baker was the best doctor by a street. But my favourite is William Hartnell.
Okay.
I love William Hartnell.
Okay.
I think it was much, not necessarily for his performance, but performance of the companions. I think he had the best companions. I think Vicky and Barbara just so far away the best companions. So I think the show was its best in its second season.
Okay. So did you start watching during the Tom Baker era by any chance?
Yes, but I got banned from watching by my parents because I kept on having nightmares.
Oh.
So I watched The Seeds of Doom and had really bad nightmares about The Seeds of Doom. And I wasn't allowed to watch until City of Death. And I think we only watched on Destiny of the Daleks. And I think we only watched them because the ITV was on strike. And then pretty much watched most of the rest of the original run. But I wasn't a regular watcher. I was a passing watcher.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to university. And when I was at university, I met some people who were really big fans. And they convinced me that it was the best show on TV, which it is the best show on TV. So
beautiful. Okay. So how did you start watching the William Hartnell era episodes? Did you watch those on tape?
Yeah, when they came out on video. And I was amazed at the quality of them. I thought the acting was just the best. I thought, like I said, I think Maureen O'Brien and Jackie Lane are just the best actresses. Like, I think they're so good. Just think they're so good. I mean, my favourite story, you see, this will surprise you. My favourite story of all is The Rescue.
Okay.
I think The Rescue is the best Doctor Who story there is. Because what The Rescue does, well, David Whittaker is the best writer, but David Whittaker rewrote the whole history of Doctor Who in The Edge of Destruction. So in story 3, he rewrote the whole idea of Doctor Who in The Edge of Destruction because he changed the relationships within the characters, because it was quite hostile, and he rewrote the whole story, like the whole synopsis of the program, 3 stories in, and he did the same again in The Rescue. He made it a completely different show, and if you watch it before The Rescue and after The Rescue, the whole show changes. And it's not just because Vicky's changed and Susan's left, it's because the relationship of the characters is all changed completely. And that he did that in one story, and you don't notice it.
Have you by any chance read some of the Target novelizations of these?
Why, yes, I do happen to have every Target novelization, and I think almost in every printing, which is really sad. But yes, I've got over 700 Target novelizations, something like that.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you don't. It's not. It's shall we say, quite sad.
I can definitely relate. You should see my Doctor Who bookshelf that we were just discussing. It's not a bookshelf. It's a rack. But wouldn't it be interesting if the BBC were to colorize the black and white episodes for the 60th anniversary? No, no, you don't want that.
Don't want that.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. Colorization. It's okay to have them colorized if they're animated,
Right.
but not. No, I don't see the point. I'd rather have all the stories animated rather than any colorization. I think I like the animations. I think it gives you a chance to see what those episodes were like, because you don't. I mean, everyone heard Fury from the Deep, for example, and thought, "Oh, that's a great story." And it turned out that when it was animated, it wasn't a great story at all, in my opinion.
Right.
And then they did something very clever, because they animated Galaxy 4 and they made it a bit less boring. And I think Galaxy 4 is amazing in animation. I think they've done a wonderful job of making a boring story good, but it wouldn't have been good if they found it, because the episode that survives is terrible. But the animated episode is really good. So they've done something really clever there with that.
So
But no, I wouldn't go for colorization. No, I'm a bit
okay.
archaic in that, shall we say.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. So you would much rather see Marco Polo animated than to
Yes.
have the old episodes colored?
Well, I'd much rather see the Massacre animated, because the Massacre works so well as an audio, and I would like to see if that worked as a TV show, because I think the Massacre is just, the concept is amazing. And you've got the audio if you listen to it, it's great, but the Target book doesn't novelize that story. It novelizes a completely different story, the one John Le Carre wanted to write. But I don't think that's a patch on what the Massacre turned out to be, because the Massacre is a story about the companion. It's a Russell T Davies story before Russell T Davies.
Interesting.
I think the Massacre is just an amazing piece of television. You've chosen a piece of history which nobody knows, which, I mean, nobody in our country knows about it. Probably, I don't know what about America, about the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. I don't think people know about it. You've set a whole story against it, so you can use the Doctor's foreknowledge to warn people, but because nobody knows what it is, you don't really believe what he's warning them about. And then he goes and disappears for 2 episodes, and you think he's posing as somebody else, and the whole viewer is completely at a loss as to what's going on, and that's kind of good. And Stephen is really lost, like the viewer. So it's proper immersive telling. I think it's fantastic. It's just such a shame it doesn't exist. And you think at the time, I mean, for years people thought the Massacre was a terrible story, and they were all wrong. Because it isn't.
So that would be your number one.
No,
that's what you'd
it's
like
not my
to
number
see
one,
animated?
but that's my number one to be animated. My number one story is always going to be The Rescue. Nothing's going to convince me otherwise. I am sorry. I think The Rescue is just 50 minutes of just brilliance, and there's things that are wrong with it, and those things that are wrong make the things that are right even better.
Have you by any chance listened to the Big Finish stories that tie in with the rescue?
I haven't, no.
Okay. Okay. They're
I don't know if
interesting.
I'd want to. I think I might get nervous and cross. I used to buy all Big Finish for a long time, and then I decided it was just too much money, and they were cashing in too much.
Mhm.
So I stopped,
Okay. Okay.
and it was
Now,
better to
so,
stop really than to just be selective, because then I get very obsessive and collect again.
right. And it sounds like your collection might be maxing out your storage base with
Yeah, yeah,
700 Target books. That's
yeah.
crazy. That is insane right there. I'd like to see
So
a picture.
thanks, thank you. You're really making me feel better about myself here.
Well,
Well done. You turned me
you
red, and you said how great I was, and now you're turning me right and saying how weird I am. Excellent.
well, let me send you a picture of my bookshelf and you will understand. I'm in the same group as you.
I will send you a picture of my bookshop later, just with the targets on, and you'll just go, "Oh,
Okay.
really?" Yeah.
It's probably going to look more organized than mine. I can assure
Yes.
you of that.
Yeah. Has to be. If it wasn't organised, I'd be in trouble.
Okay, well, the reason that I did not have to ask you if you're a fan of Doctor Who is that your love of it is extremely obvious. You're a writer and an editor for a series of Doctor Who parodies based on the adventures of Professor Howe, and with Long Scarf Publications. And I am a fan. Yes, we're going to show some of my books here in a minute, but tell us about Long Scarf Publications.
Well, I started because I saw a reference book about Doctor Who and Doctor Who books, and there was no definitive reference book for all the printings of all the Target books. And as I had like almost all the printings, me and a friend called Tim, we got very competitive at trying to find all the Target uh, printings, not just all the Target, not all the Target printings. And if we find any kind of variance between the two, we were like messaging each other and sending photographs. And there were lots of websites. There was a couple of websites that said there were printings that didn't exist. We're pretty sure didn't exist because we didn't find these at all. But we found ones that they didn't have written down that we had found.
Really?
Yeah. So it was getting to the stage where this is getting ridiculous. Someone's got to do a list. So I thought, I'll do a list. And I didn't think it would take that long. It took ages. So I got this proof copy, this book done roughly, and I thought, well, I'll do it to sell for charity. And so I started Long Scarf Publications for that, and I found out printing costs, and we printed quite a few of them. I mean, maybe I think it was maybe 300 in total. 150 hardbacks, 150 paperbacks, maybe something like that.
Hmm.
And I quite enjoyed doing it. So I did something else way back, which was a choose your own adventure
Hmm.
with Doctor Who in it, because I thought, well, no one's done one, and with me and my obsessive nature, because I've got autism and other things, I got a bit carried away, and it just spiraled completely out of control, and it ended up, well, about that thick, A4 size. Um, I'll go and grab a copy actually, if you just hang on a second. And
Okay.
uh, I thought, well, I'll publish that for charity, and that did well. And so I thought, oh, I need to start a new something else. And we did a limerick book and a couple of other things. And then I bought a Doctor Who parody called Doctor Who, I think. And there wasn't a joke in it.
Hmm.
Not one joke in it. It was trying to be really clever, but I didn't thought it was like not very good. And I thought, oh, I can do better than that. So I started having a bash at an unearthly child. And the fact it ended up to be about the caveman called Rump was just, yeah, just coincidence, shall we say.
Right. And you're talking about the Toothless Tribe.
Yes, the Toothless
Yes.
Tribe. Yes, which, because it was called the Tribe of Gum, we were the Toothless Tribe.
That's the one that is actually the book that I read on a long haul flight to Tokyo here recently.
Ah, right. So
Yeah.
did you enjoy it?
Of course. You know, I love, you know, I got all of it because I've seen the originals. I've even seen the one that is coined the pilot, which was never broadcast. And I know that the term the pilot was never used in England.
No.
And I'm so familiar with that I think I got a lot of it. And it really left it didn't leave a smile on my face. It kept a smile on my face.
That's
And
good.
see, that's what I want with Doctor Who reading. Doctor Who has a sense of humor built into it by design, but that particular book, the humor is constant, and I
I think
absolutely
my
loved it.
favorite thing about that book is I got towards the end. This is not a spoiler, and I didn't know how to get the people back together again and all the plots to line up. And I thought, what am I going to do? How do I get everyone back together? And then I was speaking to, I think, my father-in-law, and he said, well, they always all come back together at the end of a book. And I thought, they do. So I use the excuse that they always come, they know they're coming back to the end of a book, and so they all get back together. And it works because they've all got awareness that they're fictional characters, haven't they? So yeah, so it worked. But that book I didn't plan out. It sort of went along its merry way without planning. Whereas now I do not write a book if it's not planned.
Okay.
It's because I know what a mess you can get into if you don't write a book that's not planned. Hang on a second. I am going for a second. I will be back in 10 seconds.
Okay, cool.
My foot's going to sleep.
Where is it? I don't know.
Hello, how was the ceiling?
Yeah, that's I was actually reading up on the next question here. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, exactly. Exactly. That turned out to be rather massive.
Yeah, it grew, shall we say. Yeah, it grew out of control. It was only supposed to have, well, it was supposed to be at least quarter of the size. Yeah.
Can we see that again? Yeah. Doctor Who and the Fescan Threat.
Yes. No longer available because I wrote to the BBC and I said, can I write something for charity? And I don't know whether I should have written to the BBC. And I said, can I write something for charity? And they said, no. And they said, but if you write it and give your money away and you don't print more than so many copies, and I'm not telling you how many, we won't do anything. So I had this in an email, so I thought, right, I'll print this many copies off, and that's what I did.
Okay.
And there can't be any more.
Okay.
I had a bit of leeway, so I didn't quite print the amount they said. So when people asked for some afterwards, I printed a few more off, but I can't print any more now. That's it.
Okay. That's now I'm gonna look for one. I'm
Yeah, there might
absolute.
be a bit of money.
Yeah. Okay. Um. So.
I wish I had some spare ones. I wish I had some spare
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah. Don't you wish you had a couple of cases of those in the basement or something? Wow. I thought that I had that book, but I don't. And I was pretty sure I had it, and I went digging through my shelf last night to see if I had that. And I definitely do not. But from what I've seen, anywhere that I've seen, they're sold out, and that you can't find one of those anywhere. So that's interesting that BBC told you no, but they also gave you a green light with the parameter.
Yeah, this lady did. I don't know if she works for the BBC anymore, but back in the day, she did, and that was
Okay.
all right. That was good enough for me, so I was
Okay.
happy with it.
Okay.
I didn't
Very
want
good.
to do a book for charity and then have a knock on my door say, no. I
Right.
think now probably you wouldn't get away with it, but when I did it, it was fine.
Okay. And
But
what year was that published? I'm thinking 2002.
no, later than that. It's not 10 years old because I only started, so maybe 2018, something like that.
Okay. Wow. So that's a modern day rarity right there
Yeah,
in Doctor Who. Okay.
yeah. I mean, if I'd done it for myself, they would never have said. But because I gave it to Mind, they were quite happy.
Okay. Very good. So this covers how you started Long Scarf Publications. You saw a need for something that had humor in it.
Just desperately needs something with humour in it. I mean, Doctor Who is funny, and
Hmm.
unlike I've always had. I don't dislike Star Trek. I don't dislike Star Wars. They're okay, but I just wish they'd take themselves slightly less seriously. It's
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I was watching Picard last night, and I think that one of the reasons that it's probably not a good idea to read even spoiler-free reviews is that it can still set your expectations a bit high. And I think that, yeah, Star Trek is taking itself too seriously. That's a very good way of putting it. So, okay, now let me ask you, do you have an educational background in writing and editing? Nice. Self-taught.
not self-taught. I've sent some things that I've written to other people to proofread and edit, and when it comes back, oh yes, the greatest line you can ever write that's wrong, and you'll be amazed how many people do it, is something like "he hit him," and it might be clear in the mind of whoever's written it, he hit him, but who hit who?
Who hit who? Right.
Yeah, and that's the question, and you can never have enough people giving you feedback about your writing. There are things that I've written that I wish I could change, but I can.
Right.
But that also shows. But there's mistakes in target books, and really these are a tribute to target books by Professor Howe. Really, it's a tribute to Doctor Who and a tribute to target books, because I don't want them to be too long. There are some that I could have gone on and on with, but no, keep them short, punchy, funny, and readable. Because you don't want like something like Ulysses, do you really? By James Joyce. That's hard going.
Okay. When you were a school kid, did you have any mentors that suggested that you write, or did you do
No,
it?
because I was always more science and uh, maths based. And because I was good at those things, people used to say, oh, do science, do maths. But really, my interest wasn't there. My interest was in the arts and music and writing and paintings and arts and all that sort of thing. And I was directed away from it. But
Okay.
it's a shame. I feel slightly cheated that I missed out on all the things that I really was interested in. But I didn't realize I was interested in because I was pushing the things I was supposedly better at. But I don't know whether I was or not.
Okay. All right. Now this next question coming up is exactly on that book that you were just showing. Do you still have that
Okay.
at hand there?
Yes, it's still here.
Okay. Um, can you hold that up in the center there?
Yeah, oh.
Doctor Who and the Pescan threat.
Peskin.
Pescan threat.
Peskin.
Can you tell us about that and why it appears to be about 700 pages long?
It's 600 pages long.
Oh,
Because
okay.
that was entirely down that the book printing company I had wouldn't print anything bigger than 600 pages. Well, without costing you just crazy money. So it's 600 pages long. It's a choose your own adventure book, and you can play any one of the first 10 Doctors, and there's a different route for each 10 Doctors, and they all find a way to defeat a different. The Feskins have invaded a galaxy. I can't even remember which one. This is terrible. But yes, they've invaded a galaxy, and 3 planets are subject to Feskin rule, and you have to defeat the Feskins on all 3 planets, except
Okay. So it's multiple stories all in the same book that have different outcomes.
it's yes, that's why it got out of control. You can see that now. Yeah, it's multiple stories.
And it appears to be one of the rarest Doctor Who books in history.
Oh, don't say that.
Well, I'm definitely going to be looking for one because I want to read that and I want to add that to my shelf there. How long did it take you to write that?
Oh, I dread to think, because I started it and I kept on stopping. So I think I started it in the year 2000 because it was only going to have the first 7 Doctors in it. That was all was going to be in it. And I did the first 7 Doctors in it. I think I did like maybe 2/3 of it. And then I was gutted when Doctor Who came back. Not because Doctor Who came back, because I wanted to have one for each Doctor. So I sort of left it because I thought, oh no, if I'm going to do one for each Doctor, what's am I going to do here? Because I've done 7. No, I did 8 routes. I tell you, 8. I had plotted out for 8, and Doctor Who came back, and I hadn't finished it, and I thought, oh no, I've got to do another route. What's it going to be like? And I lost it. I think I saved it to a CD.
Oh no!
And I couldn't find the CD, and I thought, oh, that's gone. And then I'm thinking we're talking like about 10 years later, I stumbled across the CD with it on. And I thought, oh, I wonder what I could do. And then I started thinking again, and I thought, maybe the first 10 Doctors, mess around with it a bit, and it sort of worked. And everyone who's had it seems to enjoy it. So yeah, it's very, very difficult.
Really?
Yes, it's very difficult. And what's quite good is each Doctor has an item at the start generally, and that allows them to complete that route. But sometimes you might not find, so you might work out a whole route through you might be playing, say, I don't know, the 5th Doctor, and you might play the whole route through, and it might say, have you got an umbrella? And you're thinking, damn, I should have been playing this with Sylvester McCoy's Doctor.
Right.
but then at least you would know. But there's nothing, it's not cheating.
Right.
But yeah, it does make sense. It's got some internal logic, which is quite good.
Okay. Very interesting. That I absolutely am going to hunt down a copy of that. I'm definitely going to find one. So tell us about the book that you wrote, the Ultimate Doctor Who Fan Quiz Book.
That I wrote for a friend. Uh, Ian, he had someone who was writing a quiz book, and they pulled out on him, and he like promised it to a publisher. So he asked me, and I just cobbled that together with a
Okay.
bit of help from a couple of other people. But yeah,
Okay.
it was. I don't like to talk about it.
Okay.
It's
No
quite
problem.
it's quite a good book, but it could have been better. But we did it very very quickly,
Okay.
in quite a rush.
Gotcha. So tell us about the unofficial Doctor Who limerick book with Jenny Shirt.
Ah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. We thought somebody we saw something. Me and Jenny saw something, a limerick book for charity, and she posted on Facebook. Wouldn't it be good to do a Doctor Who limerick book? And I saw her post, and I said, "Yeah, it would. Shall we do it together?" And Jenny, who's very shy about her own ability, said, "Well, I don't think I could do that." So I said, "Yes, you can." So I did a lot of the formatting and editing for that, and Jenny found lots and lots of people, like because Jenny knows everyone, and she found lots and lots of people to contribute. And if you contributed one limerick, that would definitely be in the book. If you contributed more than one and only one was any good, then the best one will go in. If you contributed lots, we try and fit as many in as possible. But it was divided into doctors, it was divided into monsters. It was all trying to break it up and keep a nice pattern, and it did very well. Yeah, it was quite a nice book. I'd like to do one again, but you have to leave enough time to pass because it did work quite well. But it's it's one of those things you can't do every day of the week.
Okay. Okay.
But a lot of people took part, and we sold a lot of copies, so that's good. And we raised a lot of money for charity, so happy days.
Okay, very good. I'm starting to see a pattern here with your record of raising funds and awareness for charities. And it seems as if charities in the UK are much larger than what they are here. And I've seen charities associated a lot with Doctor Who works. Um, do you have some favorite charities, or do you have more than one?
Well, I felt that Professor Howe couldn't really, when we were doing that, I thought that couldn't go to anywhere but Children in Need because that's a BBC charity, and basically we were ripping off a BBC product.
Hmm.
So that's really why it's for Children in Need. I felt it was almost like I'm a bit guilty at ripping off a BBC product, so let's give it to a BBC related charity. That's what I thought for that. Mind, I think, is my favourite charity because I've had some mental health issues in the past, and I know how tough it is, and because it's a disability that people can't see, and it's something that people can't see. Some people don't take it seriously, and it's a shame. And I know how much you can suffer if you're not mentally well, so I think that's a really important charity. So it's my favourite charity, and it's why I did Fescon Threat and the Limerick book for mine. But I didn't do Professor Howe for mine, not because I didn't think it was worth doing for mine, but I did it because I thought it was better doing it for a charity that's related to the BBC because we're ripping off their product.
Okay, gotcha. So the first charity is Mind, Mind.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and put a link to that down here below. And then the second one is Children in Need,
Yeah,
which
BBC Children in Need, yeah.
it is my understanding that other writers and artists have also used Doctor Who, either calling it Doctor Who or not, and donated to Children in Need for
Yeah.
the exact reasons that you have mentioned. That basically nobody wants to get a legal letter in the mail from the BBC. And that's a way of doing that. And that one is Children in Need,
Yes.
which is the big
Parody
baby.
books are exempt from. Sorry, Greg. Parody
Mhm.
books are exempt from copyright breaches, apparently, but
Mhm.
it's still. I feel guilty trying to profit from someone else's ideas because
Right.
basically we're subverting the ideas a little bit.
Okay.
Like we've done all sorts of crossovers, and they're quite fun, shall we say?
Right. Okay. Okay, so we're going to come back to the parody series here in just a moment, but I wanted to ask you something about you. Do you
Oh,
have any here you go, look out. Do you have any secret surprising hobbies like skydiving or stamp collecting?
I play the piano. There you are. That's it.
Okay. Music.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so your brain works with music as well. Okay. Um, if someone young or old were to look at this interview in the future, somebody that perhaps had become a fan of your writing and they wanted to be successful in areas such as you have been, and they wanted to learn from your charitable works, what is the best piece of advice that you could give them?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Only write when you're inspired. Don't try and do any writing. Don't force it because 9 out of 10 times it will be rubbish. Only write when you feel it because when you feel it, it flows. When you don't feel it, it just you just want to flush it down the toilet.
Okay.
That's that's my advice. If you're going to do anything creative, you have to do it when you feel it and not when you try and force it because it doesn't work.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's close up here on Professor Howe because this is something that I want people to be aware of because I know that it's going to spread enjoyment like it has for me.
Well, thank you. That's very
Here,
kind of you. Oh, this is
here,
terribly shy.
these are my rare, still sealed hardbacks. I've been a subscriber for over a year, as you probably know, so I get some of these rare hardbacks, and I actually keep these in the plastic, and then I will get a used paperback to read that. So this one here is obviously written by you, Christopher Samuel Stone, right there. Uh,
Yes.
could you tell us anything about this? Spoiler or spoiler free,
So
up to you.
I better, if I'm going to talk about that one, I have to talk about the one I wrote a while ago. So number 7 is the European exit, Professor Howe, the European exit. And
Mhm.
that's based on the Curse of Peladon. And that features a country called Poland, spelt Poeland. Poland. Because that's an anagram of Peladon, which is very handy and can't be a coincidence, I don't think. I think that's the whole point. A land of Edgar Allan Poe. So I wrote the European exit, and of course, in Doctor Who, the Curse of Peladon is followed by the Monster of Peladon. So in Professor Howe's land, the European exit is followed by the more Polish politics. And it strangely mirrors British politics in a very uncanny way. And that's all I can say, really. And it
Okay.
features a president called Beth Trust Up. I have no idea.
That
I
sounds like
must have just thought up that name from somewhere. I wonder what could have given me inspiration.
All right, so let's move on to the next one here. Professor Howe and the Moonraker. Now, this is by
The moon,
author Alan Lear.
yes.
The Moonmaker, not the Moonraker.
Yes.
Sorry, that
No,
was
no, because it is a parody of James Bond films. Absolutely.
Oops.
So it's Spyfall crossed with James Bond films.
Okay.
But
Very
given
good.
that Spyfall was James Bond anyway, this is James Bond's and then some.
Okay.
And it doesn't go quite the way you expect. yeah. Alan did it, and I had to do a bit of editing on Alan's work. Not that Alan was wrong, but he was not used to writing, and I had a real fun time arguing with him about certain points. And he fought for some, and I fought for others, and we sort of came together quite well. And we had a really good book there in the end. I think I quite like it. The ending is just like barking mad.
Okay. So, you did some editing
Yes, on that one.
of that. Okay. Now, let me tell you a quick story I have about editors. My favorite novel was Star Wars. I bought that in December of 1976. Actually, I think I got it as a Christmas gift, and it was before the movie came out. And I read the book until the cover came off, probably dozens and dozens of times. And it said that it was written by George Lucas, but it was written by Alan Dean Foster. And I noticed that there were parts of Star Wars, and we're talking Star Wars, not Star Wars A New Hope, not Star Wars Episode 4, or anything, that just plain Star Wars, which is what it was when it was released. And I found out that the book had been edited, and I thought, there were so many extra things in it that were not in the TV film. I thought there could have been so much more. And I was actually angry to find out that this book had been edited, because I thought, who in the world has the right to chop something out of a story? Okay. So I had a negative opinion of editors, and
Yes.
I have since interviewed a couple of editors, and I found one that considers himself to be a kind editor, Mr. James Sylvester. And we were discussing the difficulties of removing things and the clashes that this could cause between authors and editors. So, that being said, do you consider yourself a kind editor?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. But if you, if you don't find something you don't like in a book or you don't understand, you give the person who wrote it the chance to rewrite it or explain why they think it works. Then you will explain exactly the opposite, why you think it doesn't work. But the final say is always with you. So if people don't like the books, it's editor's fault. It's not the writer's fault, it's the editor's fault. Because the writer tries to write a book that they like. The editor should write a book that everyone can read.
Okay. Very interesting.
And the thing, some things are obvious, like sometimes you have a conversation and it's very difficult to tell who's talking, because either there are too many people in the scene, or it's just not quite clear who's speaking. I think something like that. That's an editing job. Plotting shouldn't be an editor's job. Plotting is a writer's job. If there's a problem with the plot, then the writer should solve it, really. Unless the writer says, I don't know how to do this, can you help? It's like, yeah, okay. Oh.
Okay.
So yeah, it's inconsistencies as well. So if, for example, there are characters in one book and they're carried over and they start behaving differently because they don't know the characters that well, or then you have to sort that out. But basically, the one thing that I try and make all our Professor Howe books is in the same continuity. So unlike Doctor Who, we have a consistent continuity. And can I just say, what a nightmare decision that was. Because you forget things. You just forget things. So when you're writing one, you think, it's fine, yeah, we'll have that. And then you think, well, I've had that somewhere before. Where did I have that? When did I? What was that? You can't remember. You have to reread like 2 books to find what you were looking for. It's not a good idea. You can see why people in Doctor Who, they mess up continuity because it's impossible. It really is. It's an absolute nightmare.
Like the unit numbering
Yes,
thing.
that the
Yeah.
unit thing.
Okay.
But
Okay.
we have a great unit joke, so that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Every time they do a unit story, sorry, an item story, I should say items, because that's our version of unit. Every time in an item story, they're just about to mention the year. It's 19, and then you get dot dot dot, and then you get,
Right.
yes, we know what year it is. Right?
There you go.
That's it. That's our unit joke. It's a standard. Every time there's an unit story, it's, yes, we know what year it is. You see. So I've completely eliminated any unit continuity issues with that line.
Okay.
I'm very pleased with that. I didn't think of that, by the way, but it's very good.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look at another one here. Professor Howe and the Suicide Squad by Terry Francis.
Yes.
I don't want to give away. I've read this one also in the paperback form, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I love to think about the TARDIS, and which it's not. I'm not going to say anything else about that because I'm not going to give away any spoilers. But so when I see these things here, Alan Lear, Terry Francis, when I see these authors' names, Rachel Redhead and what have you, which I believe there's nearly 24 books in this series, or it's getting close to it. I think it's 20.
Yeah, 22 now.
22. Okay, so it's almost
22
24.
now.
When I see all these authors' names, one question that I've always had in mind is that, do you approach them, or did these authors come to you and say, hey, I have this story that I want out for children in need, for example?
There are a few different versions. There's some people who approach me, and when I speak to them, and they say, we want to do this story. And with Terry, Terry wanted to write for me, but he didn't know what to write. So he had that story, because that story I had plotted out already, because I had already written, was already a book written for Resurrection of the Daleks, and there already was a book written for Trial of the Time Lord, and the Suicide Squad was Attack of the Cybermen, which bizarrely had characters that were in both Resurrection of the Daleks and Trial of a Time Lord. They didn't in Doctor Who, but they did in this. So I had to plot out that one in detail, even though it wasn't written, so I could make both Resurrection of the Dalek work and Trial of a Time Lord work in our versions. So that was plotted out already, and I gave it to Terry, and he wrote it with those constraints, because the other books were already written, so he couldn't really go much off piste with it. He did have a few leeways but with like 3 characters, he had to get them to survive to the end, because they needed to be in the next book. So he couldn't kill them off. He couldn't kill off the regulars, and he couldn't kill off them. So that was really it, and he did quite well. And I had to change some things because he hadn't realised some of the plot points of the previous story, because I hadn't actually published that yet.
Okay.
So yeah, I was quite pleased with the way it turned out, because it's very hard writing a book in the middle of a 3, which we're never doing again, ever.
Okay.
Ever. No, not happening.
All right.
2 books in order.
Okay. All right. Would you
That's
say
another tip. That's another tip. If anyone reads it back, don't write the first book in the 3rd book and miss out the 2nd book. No.
Of course, George Lucas never did anything like that, right?
George Lucas just made up a whole 3 episodes before, and that's why it didn't work.
Or he watched a bunch of old Japanese television programs.
That's true.
Okay. This one here, before I forget, would you say that writing for Long Scarf would be a good way that an author, well, first of all, if an author is interested in raising money for children in need, I'm sure that they could approach you. And-
Absolutely.
okay, very good. Now, would you say that an aspiring author, somebody that might wish to write for Big Finish or BBC, BBC Audio
Oh,
or
I'm not
Target?
even close to either of those. If anyone wants to have a go at writing for us, I'm absolutely willing to take you on, but you'd have to plot it out. And there are certain things you need to do. There are certain rules. So I have got a writer's guide. It's only a very loose writer's guide. But what's so good about Doctor Who, and therefore Professor Howe, is all our Professor Howe stories are based upon specific Doctor Who stories. So if you choose an era that hasn't been touched very much, well, there are plenty, you can have a lot of flexibility, a lot more flexibility than you could with most things, because basically you could define the era, and then you'd have a lot more flexibility, you see, and you could create the companion. It's much harder if you do a First Doctor story, because we've actually got a lot of the First Doctor companions already done. So you'd have to stick with the characterizations we've got of each one. But if you did something like a Matt Smith story, you've pretty got a green light, because we haven't done. I don't think we've done a Matt Smith story, have we? I can't think of one I've done of a Matt Smith one yet. So you would always have a green light as to what you could choose to do and take it your way. The only thing I would ask is you plot it out first, so I can approve the plot, because we've done 22 books. I don't want you accidentally doing the same plot as another book we've got. So
Okay.
I would look to see a plot outline, and I would tell people how I would write the plot outline too.
Okay. So who puts, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But if anyone wants to message me or anything like that, absolutely fine. Yeah, I'll be willing.
Okay. Okay. And you can be reached through Patreon.
Yeah.
And we're going to put a link to that below.
Yep. That's
Okay.
absolutely fine.
Okay. Who puts the humor in the story, the writer or the editor?
If there's a period where there's not enough jokes, I whack a joke in.
There we go.
Sometimes they're not funny, but if they've grown, they work. That's my opinion. If you've got to remember to put jokes in, sometimes they can have. There's one very good joke in the dad dynamic, which I won't spoil, because Lisa wrote it absolutely beautifully. I do like the way she wrote that story, and there's maybe quite a few pages that leads up to this joke, which does repeat. But once you get to the joke, you go, oh my goodness, that's so good. Because when I was reading it, I was thinking, where's she going with this? I don't know what she's doing. And when she got to the punchline, it was like, oh my goodness, it's so good. And I told her, I don't think she believes me, but it was just like a work of genius. Because you couldn't believe she got there and actually had the nerve to get there, because it was a very brave joke, but it's very funny.
And you said this was Lisa?
Lisa Good, yeah.
Lisa Good? Okay. All right. Okay, I just realized we are pushing an hour here, which is the amount of time that I asked of you. So I'll go ahead and get this wrapped up here real quick. Are you hanging in there okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Just getting excited.
Good. I mean, this is so much fun. When I thought, I wonder if he'd be willing to do an interview. And when you said yes, I was so excited. I'm pumped up. I cannot believe I'm talking to you, and this is really so much fun.
Oh, thank you. That's so good.
Okay, so we have Professor Howe and the
hemoglobin henge. Yes.
Yep. Rachel Redhead and
me.
Who is this down here?
Me.
Christopher Samuels. Oh yeah, that's you. Okay, so this one I think is very recent.
That's the newest one. That was the March release.
Yeah, I think I just got this in the mail last week, and in fact, I just opened it just now, right before talking to you. So I thought that was the newest one. Okay. So you did, now you've done 2 or 3 of them already with Rachel Redhead.
Yes,
Okay.
because me and Rachel work really well together. We both have shortcomings in our writing, and we complement each other very well. She's got lots of ideas, probably too many ideas. And although I have ideas, I'm a bit more, not restrained with them, but a bit more careful, and I spread them out a bit more. So we work well together. Rachel writes it, dumps it on me, and says, "Have a look at this." And I say, "What have you done?" And then she is very kind and gives me pretty much free rein to alter it. And with that one, which is the Stones of Blood,
Mhm.
it turned out it went very long. I mean, really long. So it's split into 2. So the bits which are set by the stones is your first half, which is what you've got there. And then there'll be a second part, which is going to be called the Android Adjudicators, yes, which is the bit where he's on trial on the spaceship. Well, Tom Baker, but it's not like that at all. It's really weird.
So we just got a
But-
spoiler. We just got a spoiler there on a new title.
Yes, but well, it's in the back of that book as well. But yes, it's going to be interesting, shall we say?
Okay.
But my
Okay.
favourite book that me and Rachel have done together, I have to say, is the Trojan Tribulations, which is
Well, surprise, surprise.
so good. I am so pleased
Look
with
what
that.
I've got right here.
And Greg, you've got to open it and read it because it's like so good.
We
It
didn't even
is-
we didn't even script that. How was the timing of that? Well, okay, you know what, Mr. Stone, I'm gonna do something crazy here. I'm gonna follow what you just requested. Let me get something to cut. Oh, here
Oh,
we
look,
go.
he's going to open it. Yeah.
I can just use my fingernail right here. I am opening a
This-
rare hardcover collector's item here, and I'm going to read it tonight.
And
There
then you
we
can
go.
tell, and then you can tell me off about some of the stuff we've done because it's so good.
Oh, I love this. I love this new book smell. This is really, really nice. Look at this, folks. Let's look at the inside here. This is a really nice quality book right here. I like how this feels in my hands. It is. This is premium quality book right here.
Thank you.
Absolutely excellent.
I'm so pleased with that one. I really am pleased with that way that turned out. And I'm quite a harsh critic of myself, and that one I was absolutely chuffed with.
Perfect. I'm going to start
Excellent.
reading it tonight. In fact, let's
Good.
see here. What's the first? Okay, we got the prologue here. How do you pronounce this word right here? Hey,
Hephaestus.
Hephaestus. Oh, okay. Hephaestus
Hephaestus
and the speed of light.
Speed of light.
Okay. And see,
Yes.
that right there. That is characteristic of the humor in these books. They are so much fun.
We always have themed chapter titles,
Okay, I can see that.
right? So sometimes it's not quite what you expect. So they're all in that one. They're all puns on with God's names in.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Very good. You know what?
Amazing.
I've got to get you to sign this. Do you ever do conventions or go to? I understand that in England you guys have 2 Doctor Who conventions every weekend or something like that.
If there is, I don't go to that many. I am going to
Okay.
the capital this weekend.
Okay. Yeah. And
So I'm at the capital this weekend.
okay, you British people have all the fun. I'm telling you. We have like 2 or 3 conventions here per year.
Yes, but yours are
uh,
very big. Yours
yeah, they
very,
are.
very big. And
They-
you get
yeah.
people. I mean, for years we didn't get anyone from New Who at all. So
Right.
you think yourself, don't think yourself unlucky. You do very well.
Okay. Very good.
You get
all right.
Comic Con in San Diego. Don't even knock it. just move along.
Right. Okay, so I think we've covered everything. We're going to wrap it up here. I got one more personal question. It seems like a lot of artists that I've interviewed, the thing about hobbies, there's an intentional reason for that question, because I found that a lot of artists are fully enwrapped in or wrapped up in what they do, and it's all that they do most of the time. So what I'm wondering is, writing and editing so common for you that it's a part of day-to-day life, as in what is
Yes.
an
No,
okay,
it's not good. I want to have a break
okay,
sometimes, please. But no,
okay,
it is. It is because we do effectively 5 books a year, so it's a lot of work.
okay,
And if people are still getting pleasure from it, great. If people aren't, then we'll stop. That's really it comes to. But it gives me things to do, which is really good, and I enjoy it. But
okay.
I'm considering maybe dropping a book next year, so
Mhm.
doing 4, because 5 is just too many, I think.
Okay.
But we'll see how that goes. That's to come, perhaps.
Okay. Well, you've definitely answered that. So, one more quick fun question here. How excited are you about the return of Russell T. Davies, who some of the fans have coined as RTD2, and then of course our new doctor with Shuti Gatwa? Are you? You're extreme. You're saying you're extremely excited?
No,
No. Okay.
no, I didn't like Russell's era of Doctor Who at all.
Fair enough. Okay.
I was not
Okay.
a fan, not really. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
I much preferred the Moffat era.
Okay.
I'm not, no, no.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And you're not
I,
alone.
that
That's Yeah, you're
that's
not
how
alone. I've seen a good number of people here recently expressing that they preferred other showrunners. So
I didn't like him as a showrunner at all. I
okay.
think if you have a look at his time, most of the better stories in his time were written by other people.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Moffat, when he was showrunner, his episodes were still the best. Because
Okay.
I think Moffat is, I mean, he's going to be at the convention, and I'm just going to be so anxious to meet him because he's like my idol. I think he's such a good writer. I wish I could write even half as good as him, because I
Wow.
think he is such a good writer. I think the difference between Russell and Stephen Moffat, I think I can say quite simply, is Russell can write a great start, but he doesn't know where to go with it, and the endings are disappointing. Moffat, sometimes his starts aren't the best, which I would dispute in some cases, but there are certainly some stories of his where the start isn't great, but you always know how to write an ending. Moffat can write an ending, and that's why I always feel that Moffat was a better writer, because it's much easier to write a start than it is an ending. Endings are absolute nightmares. The number of times I've seen people get into tangles with their endings, they've got all the pieces there and they don't realize they've got all the pieces. It's unbelievable. So I think endings are much harder to write, and Moffat can write an ending. There you are.
Okay. Very good. All right.
Don't
So
show
let's
this to Russell T Davies now, please.
I don't have I don't have his email address, and that's probably fortunate for him. So all right, folks, go out and thank Mr. Stone for his time and reward yourself. If I didn't enjoy these books, I wouldn't have been a paid subscriber to Patreon for the last year. I was a premium subscriber for over a year. I have these rare hardbacks, one of which I just opened, as we can see. And go out and support children in need, where the profit of these goes to, and ultimately have a laugh, because like I said earlier, these books, they don't leave a smile on my face, they keep a smile on my face. And humor is largely, in part, one of the reasons that I love Doctor Who. And in this book series right here, thanks to Mr. Christopher Samuel Stone here and other writers, it captures the humor of Doctor Who and it takes it up a tier. And there's nothing else like them. So we're going to put a link right down here below. Mr. Stone, stick around while I wrap this up.
Okay.
And I want to talk to you here for just another second. Was there anything that I did not ask you during this interview that you would like to answer?
No, because I'm getting really embarrassed.
Okay, then my job here is done. Yeah, you have no idea what an honor it is to speak with you. I consider that a lifetime honor because you have not only contributed to Doctor Who, but you have contributed to and uniquely enhanced British cultural history.
Oh,
That's the truth. So thank you. Thank you very
you
much.
know how to make someone feel incredibly awkward. Thank you.
Maybe it's a California thing. So, all right. Well, cheers from San Francisco to Portland, England, and thank you for your time. And I'm going to be checking my mail for the next book.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes, sir. Have a nice night.